We are live. Let's do this thing. Welcome, welcome,
Awesome.
Christoph. Thanks for joining me
Hello.
today.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk film music, film scoring, basically what people's questions about working as a composer. I think is mainly a lot of what this is, because the audience is a mix of either working composers themselves, students who one day hope to work, hobbyists who tell me that even though music is their hobby, it would be kind of nice to score a TV show or something like
Of
that.
course.
So that. But if you are just joining us, which I think all of you are, today I'm joined by Cristoph Zirngibl, who is a Hollywood Music and Media Award-winning and Jerry Goldsmith Award-winning film composer based in Munich, Germany. He's recently scored the first German Apple TV Plus series, Where's Wanda, and the animated feature, The Hero of Santopia. So again, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I have before this started, I put out a call on Twitter and on Discord for questions if people had them, and we did get a bunch. So I thought rather than me asking you various things, maybe we should just dive into what the people want. I guess that's okay.
Excited.
So the first one is from Gian Pitcher, who wants to know, how do you balance working on commissioned music versus personal compositions? And do you practice your playing in between it all?
Tough question. The answer to that might be I don't balance it because I'm at the moment at a very lucky position to not have time doing my own stuff.
Right.
Which is a good thing in a way, but I mean I have tons of ideas here, and I wanted to do an album. Just talked to a friend about that idea, and I really want to put out some music that's not attached to a movie, for finding my artistic soul, or for discovering something new inside me. But at the moment, there's no time for doing that. And as for practicing, I'm not so much a musician. I got into composing because I'm not very good at playing piano or drums. I just wanted to write music so other people could play it. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
So, my from time to time, I have some gigs and I have to practice, and it's a lot of fun. But if I don't have any gigs coming up or any live performances, I rarely have the time to practice thoroughly.
You're not working on your scales and arpeggios every day.
As a drummer, it's hard to work on
As a
scales.
drummer, you play keyboard. You play piano too, though, right?
I play piano too. My first instrument was the drums, and
Okay.
I played in rock bands and big band and stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun. But it was never enough to take it to a professional level.
So excuse me, drums is your main, where your heart is. Okay.
Instrument by heart, yeah.
A lot of people ask me how to get better at rhythm, and I tell them where in the drums, and they don't want that answer, but it's the answer.
Of course. Yeah, and actually listen to music and listen to a band with great drummers or percussionists.
Right.
The one thing you can't learn in any score is the rhythmic feel. I mean, unless you're more into, or even if you're into orchestral percussion stuff, the feeling of an orchestra and how the rhythm lives inside an orchestra or lives inside a band is something you have to experience by listening to it, even better by performing. And I think it's a really important part of my music that I played in bands a lot, in orchestras.
Do you play on your own tracks other than
MIDI? Other than MIDI, I mean, I do record percussion and piano quite a lot.
Nice.
Because piano is really hard to notate in the right way, so someone else can perform it unless it's really something really classical. But if my music is more pop oriented, I think, in terms of piano, so it's easier to perform it than to write it down.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna just so you guys watching know, I'm gonna give priority to questions that come in while we're talking, as opposed to the ones that came in before. So we do have a question. When you compose a work, how important is it to you? Is the main theme or idea versus the production aspect of evolving the work into a full-fledged production?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a very good question, actually. I mean, by heart, I'm a very theme-driven guy. I really like to have a main theme or different themes and melodies for my projects, and even for the more electronic thriller stuff, I really like to find a melodic idea that represents the overall situation of the movie or the series. But when it comes to finding the idea versus the production aspect, I think it's pretty hard to do the one without the other today, because you have to present your idea pretty quickly, and often you have to write very easy melodies and very small melodic ideas, motives, and you have to attach them to a certain sound, so they get exciting and unique. So I think you always have to think both together.
By easy melodies, do you mean like easy for the audience to recognize? And
yeah, I mean, you can't write a ET melody for a thriller score. It's just too long and too complex. And if you write for thrillers, for example, which I do right now, is you have to find a small idea that you can use in very different contexts, and very drony music or very rhythmic music, not so much very much harmonic variety. It has to really stand for its own, if you know what I mean.
right. Do you so something I've done before, I wonder if maybe just everybody does this, is when I have a score where I have themes for certain moods or characters, do you plan those out kind of before writing, like this is going to be this theme, or do they just kind of come up as you go into each scene?
It really depends on how much time I really have. I mean, if there's a TV movie and you have 4 weeks to do it, I just work through the scenes. I mean, I take the most important scenes and see which theme works, and then I check whether the theme works for the whole movie and other places. And that's really how I work through the movie. For the Hero of Santopia, I really took animation has a much bigger time scale, so you really have time to dig into the thematic material, and I there I had the chance to get much more elaborate in terms of themes and melodies, and really try them out, tried different harmonizations and instrumentations and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you work, you mentioned you do the big scenes, so do you work out of order? Like time order?
It depends.
Depends.
It depends. I mean, I really try to find the core scene in a movie and start with that, because there the thematic material really has to work, and because you have to have a dramaturgical bow from beginning to the important scene, and so it's really important that this scene works, and then I start from the beginning of the movie, because you should work in order to in the right order to send out a whole bunch of scenes to the director for approval. And so I can't just jump around in the movie. I really have to have the first 30 minutes finished by time X and send it out. So I really have to work in order.
You generally, yeah. Okay. So thank you, Sarah, for asking about themes. Gregory wants to know, you mentioned that you're busy. What tips for getting the music done have you found worked for you? Tips that make you faster at writing? And you mentioned a few weeks ago you were at a productivity for film scoring seminar,
yeah, right.
or something. Yeah.
No, yeah. I
off camera. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a panel in at the Film Fest in Zurich. There's a film music congress called Soundtrack Zurich, where a lot of people speak about very interesting topics, and I spoke about productivity hacks for film composers, actually. So thanks for that question.
So what are your best tips? I guess.
Yeah, so the general principle is get everything out of the way that is not composing. So you can spend most of the time composing inside the small time frames we have. So have your folder structure, your file naming, maybe have someone to help you. I have a part-time assistant who takes care of cue sheets and all the incoming data, checks the data, and sets up video sync sessions or Pro Tools sessions or stuff like that. So spend a lot of time in organizing all that stuff so you have as much time to compose as you can get. That's really the only thing that I can tell you, I think.
Do you have specific hours you work or any kind of schedule?
Yeah, normally I work from 8:30 to 6 p.m.
It's a
and
long day.
try to have dinner with my family.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good.
And yeah, and even under big time pressure, I try to keep those time frames. Or sometimes I work some hours in the evening after kids are in bed, stuff like that, and to really have the weekend for recreation. Or I mean, sometimes I have to do tax or stuff like that, which I can't do during the week. So that's basically my time.
Software updates and all those things.
Yeah, we don't do that during projects.
Right. Do you, I found this has become a little controversial. Do you have a certain amount of minutes that you try to get done, or does it depend on the project, like a per day?
Normally in the beginning of project, I allow myself a lot of freedom in that regard, because I really want to get things, I want to get in the flow, and I don't want to get under the pressure too early. I just want to come up with the general ideas. And once those are set, I use QDB, and it shows me you have to write 2 minutes per day to get it finished in time, or you have to write 6 minutes or something, which is really stressing me out a bit. But
10 minutes.
it
I've seen
happens.
those before.
10 minutes. We had that. And so yeah, it changes. In the beginning, I try to not look at the times per day I compose. So, but after the first week, I really try to write 4 minutes a day or something.
I have a rule that works for me, is that 2 minutes of sketch equals 1 minute of music. So if I don't get 2 minutes done, but I did sketch 4 minutes, that's the same to me. And it works out, because then the next day it's like takes care of itself.
You're right. Actually, that's one more tip in terms of productivity. If you're stuck creatively, or you don't find the right notes or something, I just set up the logic song for the next cue. I set the start and the end markers and markers for turning points and stuff like that. And I just put a few bars of piano here and a few chords there. So I have a very small structure, and then I go on to the next cue, So I have the next 5 or 6 cues lined up already. And the next day I just have to fire those up and start composing, and not fiddle around with the logic session and stuff like that.
It works really
well. And that helps quite a lot.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Virus Music says, hello, everyone. Good day. I have a question about growing as a composer, especially for me, since I live in Iraq. It's much harder for me to grow or have a film to score. So I guess there's a second question to that, is how do you find things to practice scoring? Maybe a follow-up on that as well. How do you grow?
How do you grow? That's a very, very interesting question. I mean, of course, you grow by practicing, and you really grow, of course, once you are put into the machinery that is a film production, once you really are under time pressure and have to communicate with people, stuff like that. So, but to start out, I think, I mean, we ripped off DVDs. There was no internet when I started, really, and we ripped off some cut scenes, or some scenes that didn't make it on the movie, that were on DVDs, and we scored those. And I think there should be something like that on the internet. There's a site, I don't remember its name, where you can where there are film clips for film composers to practice. Do you know the site?
There's a site, the QTube.
Yeah, the
You
QTube,
know?
right?
Yeah, I'm gonna work with them on a video soon, actually. So yeah,
Right. Awesome.
the QTube CUE. I'll put it in the chat actually. But yeah, that's a good a place for films that are made specifically for film composers to practice, basically. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Obvious answer, right? Yeah.
Somehow.
Sorry, Brian. I should have thought of that, but yeah, got it. Good. And yeah, I mean, the best way to get better at anything is to do that thing. So compose.
Compose, yeah, and set yourself time frames and see if you can match those time frames, so that that's an aspect you can practice on your own to get more fluent in composing, or get quicker, get faster, and which is a really important point at some point in the future, of course.
I have a difficult question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just changing. The difficult question on Twitter is from Zekrominer. How do you prove your experience in the craft if you don't already have commissions or clients? That's a tough one. How did you get your first job? I guess is part of the question. You know?
I mean, I went the route that I was assistant to a composer for quite some time, and that's definitely, I think, one of the best routes to go if you have the chance to, because you learn how things work without the pressure, and I mean, of course there's pressure, but you're not in charge,
right
and that changed everything for me, because there I learned the real thing. I mean, composing and producing music is the one thing, but communicating with people and working under time pressure and deal with upcoming problems, with approval processes and with non-approval processes, especially, that's where things get interesting. I mean, writing nice music for a nice movie is the easiest thing in a way, but that's not how it works most of the time, right?
Right.
Because everything is evolving all the time, and the film isn't done until you are done. So yeah, it's really, yeah, it's a really tough question to answer, because if I haven't gone that road, who knows if I would have become a film composer. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I recommend that path as well. And I guess the other way is that every project, so if you have no credits and just absolutely nothing, then being willing to work for free is payment. If you find some indie thing, they have no budget, no one else is getting paid, and you can give them some music, like a short film, then all of a sudden you have a credit and you have a thing. Like that's payment as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have it.
That's it. And on the other hand, most of the time it's not that important that you haven't done a lot of things, because it's more about the personal connection. I mean, you can go to film festivals and meet people, just convince them to try working with you. If they like you, that's worth more than a Berkeley degree, I think. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that leads to the next question a little bit, I guess.
Totally on purpose, of course.
Right. Do you have a recommendation for somebody starting out on training? There's a lot of white noise on the internet, a lot of training programs that look like a money grab. What should I be focused on? It's a good question.
Well, yeah, it's a really good question. All our questions are really good. Wow.
We've got a focused audience here.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, of course, from a personal perspective, I really, if you can afford it, I really can highly recommend studying at a university, because you can make connections there and meet people there, and shift focuses on what you want to learn. If you want to focus more on the technical side, or on the theoretical side, and often those schools are connected with film schools too, so you learn to know directors who are just starting out and stuff like that. So it's a win-win situation. And
Yes, student to your earlier point, a student director will say, "Oh, you do music? Do my movie, please." They don't want.
Yes.
They don't care. Like what they
Right.
don't even ask for a demo. Usually, they're just like, "Oh, thank you, please
Yeah,
give
right.
me music."
Yeah.
So,
And also the social aspect of having like-minded people around you
right.
is really for at least for me it was really important and really pushing me to the limits, because you learn so much things from each other, from different musical and cultural backgrounds, stuff like that, and it was really rewarding doing that. But as for internet resources, yeah, I mean 12-story music should be quite good, as I heard.
Right. Sure.
But
Do you? I mean, you probably aren't using the current ones because you're busy working, I guess. So.
yeah, I mean, what I really like is, I don't know if you know, are we allowed to endorse people?
Sure.
Film music Film Music Notes is a really
Mark
good
Richards.
resource.
He's a friend
Mark
of the
Richards.
channel. Yeah.
I mean, those lessons are, I mean, whenever I have time, I try to dive into some of his lessons, and those are really, really good. It's like sitting at the university and having a really taking a really deep dive into the theoretical side of things.
There's the
But
link.
other than that, I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube videos like yours, for example, and there are really a lot of resources for small portions of knowledge.
Right.
If you're interested in beat programming or interested in orchestral programming, something like that, you find a lot of free stuff there. If you want to have a more comprehensive course, I really don't know. I'm very sorry. I'm the wrong guy to ask those
Sure.
questions.
Sure. Well, maybe you can do this one. Sarah asked, "What tools do you use for composition, and how important are tools for you to be efficient?"
From the beginning, I use Logic. It's my main DAW, and I know it inside out. And it always was my main tool, because I never learned to write scores by hand before I studied at the university. So it was always my way to express myself. Just playing piano, just playing drums wasn't enough. I really wanted to have everything that I heard in my head to put that together in a DAW with MIDI instruments. So that's really like my digital persona. I really interact with it and improvise. I compose, and I think that's my most important thing. Having a really good keyboard like here, and my Logic, and I'm all set.
You have, is that like an iPad for key switches, or what are you using?
Yeah, I have an iPad here with Metagrid.
Oh yeah,
which is really great, especially if you learn new software like Dorico, which I have to dive into now. You can create a lot of key switches and don't have to remember them all the time like in the old days.
Right.
You just have to memorize everything or have a big book next to you.
Do you use Art Conductor and the articulation sets and all that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I switch. I used to be key switches, and now I'm all in on Art Conductor.
Yeah, same with me for a long time. But the more complex stuff gets, the more complex the setups get in Logic. So Art Conductor is a really, really big help, especially in connection with Metagrid, because it works only in Logic so far. So no, because it automatically shows you all the playing techniques per track.
Yeah, so I like that, really because
helpful.
I forget about 90% of the techniques that I don't use, you know, and then so seeing them come up is like, oh yeah, I could use this more specific length staccato if I just remembered it was there. Yeah, that's really good.
Absolutely.
So isn't the Cubase is kind of the main rival? They're a German company, I think, right? Steinberg.
They are, yes.
Yeah. Just but, never got to you.
Yeah, I mean, I have Cubase, I think 13 installed, and I try from time to time, because there are some things that work really better in Cubase. All the export stuff, stemming and things is much easier in Cubase in a way.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that I'm so used to in Logic, and it's so quick in many things, setting up new tracks and on all these connections with multi-instruments and MIDI tracks, and I really hate that. So
Yeah.
I always come back to Logic, and also performance-wise, the last time I tried it, Logic was outperforming Cubase by far.
Wow. Okay.
On a Mac,
Yeah.
yes.
There's certain MIDI editing things make me jealous, but it's okay.
That's right. Absolutely.
So Gregory asked, do you have a mentor or a small group of people that are available to help you with questions you have, etc.?
Yes, I think that's also a very important point. I have a mentor. I just work on a project with him, and he was the first professor at university, and he actually hired me as an assistant right away. And I mean that has been 20 years ago exactly to the day, I think.
Wow. Okay.
And we still are in contact, and we work together regularly on projects, and that's really a great thing, because working for such a long period regularly on projects really makes it easy. I think did you co-compose with some people already, or what is your experience? Because I think it's really hard to find really like-minded people and someone matching your workflow and your musical identity and stuff like that. So
yeah, I also was a composer's assistant and then started taking on like additional music work. So I learned to write for TV the way he wrote for TV, basically, you know,
yeah, right.
because that was how I was taught. So yeah,
Right.
I consider that my master's degree in composition was being a composer's assistant.
Same.
You know,
Same.
Definitely worth
But
it.
yeah, we also actually this morning we invited a few colleagues, friends for breakfast, and we do that a few times a year to exchange and to talk about the music industry, film music industry, about different ideas and stuff like that. And that's really helpful, and also getting on the phone with someone when you're stuck or when there's a difficult situation is really important. And it has to be someone who knows the job. So yeah, it often, I mean, you can talk to your wife or your friends, but unless they are really into the film business or into music, they won't understand the specific problematics, I guess. And so it really helps to have someone who knows what you're going through and help you out, and that's really important, I think. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I noticed you're a member of the Society of Composers and Lyricists in LA.
That's
much
right.
easier if you're there, I guess, but that's a good.
It is, yeah. I mean, I never made it to the meetings there so far, but I hope to go there next time.
Oh yeah, it's fun. The screenings are really fun.
Right.
All right, back to tech. Francisco asks, what are your priorities when choosing orchestral samples? For example, is it consistency across instruments, track delay, or is consistency an important consideration, or what else? So I guess first of all, what samples are you using?
All of them. I mean, over time, you really invest a lot of money in most of the stuff, and then you learn to use just the viola of that one and just the cello and just the flute there. But I mean, and just helped a friend with an orchestra score, a programmed orchestra score, and I just fired up an orchestral tools template with the help of my assistant, and that's just a very, very good library, a very good sounding library. Just used 3 mics and put a little reverb on it, and it just works. And that's what I really like. I mean, the second thing is the BBC orchestra. It works in the same manner. Or what I really like is also the VSL stuff, because it's very consistent and there's almost no delay, no track delay. But yeah, it really depends on your workflow.
So is the priority workflow then?
It's a mixture of workflow and sound.
Right.
How quickly can I get the sound I want out of the instrument? and how easy are the legatos to work with, and stuff like that.
So you're not as concerned about every extended flute technique and weird articulations, or
it depends. I mean, if I didn't do well. I did a horror score for a short movie 20 years ago, but unless you really want that specific sound, if you want to work with extended techniques, maybe it's the better way is to work with pencil and paper and record it. And I think that would be the way to go for more of that specific scores like that. But yeah, I have a very, very simple setup, and just add stuff as needed. So works for me pretty good.
All right. Slight shift in topic. From Discord, James CB says, how do you time the hits in your score to moments in the film? And so he mentioned he watched a video where I did that in Logic, but how do you do it if you're working with a live orchestra? So for people who haven't done that.
So you normally write the music inside your DAW because you have to do a demo to demonstrate it to the director or the producer. And from there, once you have that piece finished and approved, you simply export a click track and a MIDI file. And at the orchestra session, you use a Pro Tools session where you import those the click tracks and the MIDI file. And the MIDI file will transfer the meter changes and the tempo changes and also the markers to Pro Tools. And so the orchestra will hear the click and will play to the click. I think.
Do you use streamers and all that anymore, or just click?
Just click.
Yeah. Does anyone anymore?
I mean, for I did for more for a dramatic movie a long time ago where there was a dancing scene and I danced to a waltz on camera. And it was much easier for the conductor to match the movement of the dancers.
Right.
And we use the streamer so he knows when scene changes happen, so he can adapt the tempo but normally you just don't have the time to work with streamers and set it up. It takes a lot of time. I think click is pretty fine. Orchestras that record film music in studios are really used to working to click, and I think it's not a big problem. I hope that answers the question. I mean, we can dive into this topic quite a bit, but
well, maybe if we run out of questions, we'll come back to it, but I don't think we will. So John Max said, you said it's important to have a good keyboard. What is your keyboard?
I tried out a lot of keyboards until I found my Roland A88.
Okay.
And
looking it up.
I mean, it's a very personal subjective thing. If you like light-weighted or real-weighted keys or something like that. So yeah, I'm very much used to weighted keys from my piano playing. But sometimes if you do a lot of orchestral programming, playing strings or stuff like that, non-weighted keys might be interesting too. But yeah, I'm really used to, and I'm very happy with my Roland thingy.
That's good.
But it's really very subjective. Some people like the Depfer, or other people like Arturia or the native instrument stuff. So you have to try it out, I think.
Yeah, I have a semi-weighted. It does the job. So I have an actual piano downstairs, so if I need that to fill that itch, I can do it. Francisco asks, do you have any advice for improving on filling in the orchestral sound? Have you found it useful to study scores? And thank you very much for sharing your insights.
You're welcome. Thank you much for your questions and for listening. Studying scores is very important, of course. But I'm more a listening person. I think I learned more from listening to live concerts and orchestra scores than from just reading scores. I mean, if I hear something interesting and I can't figure out how it works, I look in the score, of course. But I was interested in orchestra scores from at a very young age. I mean, I heard my first CD was the Jurassic Park score, and I don't know how many times I heard that score, and if and it trained my ear quite good. So I know what's happening in the orchestra. It helps also when listening to synth scores or to band music. So for me, that's the most important part: listening to stuff and
Makes sense.
internalizing the sound,
Right.
and afterwards you can learn how you can achieve that sound.
Right.
But with film music, a lot of the stuff is not just orchestration; it's also how you record it and how you process it afterwards. So it's really a combination of a lot of things, I think.
Time. That's a big
Time.
part of it. Just you'll get there in time.
That's it.
So Sarah has a question back on sample libraries. Do you think depth is more important than breadth? I mean, for me as a new composer, should I focus on a single library or go after multiple libraries?
I mean, you have to start somewhere, right?
Right.
So I think it depends on what kind of music you want to write, right? Because if you want to do more epic stuff, you don't need that many playing techniques and that many different sounds. You just need the right big sounding strings and brass. You don't need woodwinds. You need a bit of choir, stuff like that. If you want to get more sophisticated and write for chamber orchestra, it's a pretty different thing. So it really depends on what kind of music you write. So Sarah, just let us know what kind of music you want to write, and we can get more specific on that. But I think over time you will find your palette, and if you start with one library, you will soon find out what you're missing with that library, and you will fill those gaps with different things, and just become a member of VI Control if you aren't already, and there are plenty of options and plenty of people helping you out there.
And the Black Friday sales are coming soon, so get ready to buy them all.
Shut off the internet right now.
Right. Yeah. What was I going to say about the libraries? Yeah, one nice thing about orchestral tools is a lot of their libraries you can buy just one instrument. So you might have good woodwinds, but you don't have a good bass clarinet. You could maybe pick up just the bass clarinet from there, which is nice.
That's right.
For $50 or something. Yeah.
That's right. And what I also like about those guys is that, especially with the new sign player, they balanced out everything against each other. So if you just use one microphone, the same microphone position for each instrument group, you get a pretty decent, deep orchestra sound in sense of space.
How much do you mess with your microphone settings?
Not too much.
Not too much. Okay.
No, I mean, it depends. But normally, I think if you really go for a realistic film music orchestra sound, just pull up the three mics and you have the spatialization and the right position of the instruments, and you're ready to go. You don't have to mess with that.
Right.
Also, when combining different libraries, I mean, people really can freak out in how to match the reverbs of libraries. I don't think it's that much of a thing, really. I mean, if a problem occurs, just solve it. But most of the time, I don't run into problems like those. It's more a thing of how you layer instruments, or how you layer sample instruments, and which one is in the foreground, which one's in the background. I mean, yeah. It's, people tend to overthink stuff.
Right.
Just try it out, and if it sounds good, it's good.
Composers tend to overthink stuff. I think.
Right.
We like to think about stuff. Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
you can, of course. There's if you have the time, and there are people that really checked out every sample delay of every patch and matched those in their sessions and built really complex reverb routings and stuff like that, and it pays out, but you have to put so much effort into it for the last 5% that you really have to set your focus. Do you have the time for that, and does it really make a difference in the end?
Right.
If it's mixed into the movie, and I mean, with feature films, when you hear it in the cinema, it's a different thing, but for TV stuff, most of the time you're good to go.
Right. Great. Okay. Gregory has a question related to where we started when you mentioned you try to get 4 minutes done a day. Is that 4 minutes fully produced and like off to the director? Was it?
Yeah, as soon as, yeah, I just I also could have said 7 minutes, because it really depends on the complexity of the music,
Right.
and how much music you have in a project.
So I didn't think you had an exact number, but so
Yeah,
some days
I
it's 4
mentioned
minutes.
some days it's 4 minutes, some days it's 7, some days
Right.
it's 30 seconds. It
Right.
really depends. But sometimes it has to be 4 minutes ready for the director. But what I like to do is go quickly, write those 4 minutes, and the next day listen to it again, and check the programming, check the sound, and then send it out to the director. So
Mhm.
sleep one night and refresh your ears and your thoughts, and that's my preferred workflow.
Another question from Gregory. What techniques do you have for rejection? Happens to me a lot when they say, no, this won't work. What do you do to blow off steam?
To blow off steam,
Hmm.
I mean, there always is a reason for such situations, and I'm really interested in solving that situation, really.
Right.
I mean, it depends. There are some people that can get really awkward, but if they tell you in a respectful manner, and they can just ask questions, why doesn't it work for you? And I mean, most of the time it's really fun, because the way you score the scene is just the one way that came to your mind in that second. And if you had 3 days more time, then you would have come up with 2 different ideas. So
Mhm.
and comments like these might shift your perspective on a scene, and stuff you didn't think about in context of the film, and then you write different music for that scene automatically. So rejection is not so much a thing that I don't embrace, because yeah, film making a movie is teamwork, and finding the right language and the right vocabulary for the movie. And the director, for example, has lived with the idea of these movies for such a long time. He's very deep into it, and there's so little time for him to tell you about all the different aspects and all the details. So you sometimes have to fail to find the right thing for the right scene. So embrace rejection. I mean, it's part of the job. It's not telling you you're a bad composer or your music is shit. It's
Right.
just just a natural part of the process.
Do you ever get stuck when you're writing?
I do sometimes, but most of the time I get stuck when I have too much time.
Hmm.
If what really helps is getting into the flow and just writing and writing, not thinking so much about it, writing and thinking afterwards,
Yeah.
and that prevents you from getting stuck. I mean, there are some when I get to a point in a movie where I really don't know how to go on composing, I just skip it and go to the next scene, and where I know theme X will work in that scene, I just solve that one, because that's another 2 minutes done, and then I can take care of the other things later. And
Mhm.
maybe through working on a different scene, I'll get the idea for the scene that I skipped. So yeah, that's just try to stay in the flow once you're in a project, and try to write and write and write, and then the writer's block won't occur, I think. But I do have writer's block from time to time, and That's often a sign that you spend too much time in your studio and just you have to go out and meet people, go to a concert, do something nice for you, and relax a bit and shift your perspective to other things, and then go back to it, and then you will have a different view on the scene or the movie or the music, and it will work out in the end.
Sherlock Holmes would play his violin when he was
Right.
stuck on a case, right? So
Right.
take up the violin, maybe.
Take up the violin. I would love to do that, maybe.
Yeah.
But it has to be another life, I guess.
When would you do
When?
it? Yeah. Martin said it's easier to repair than to create, and I agree with that. Wow, I have a lot
to repair than to create. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more questions. I have to pick and choose here. All right. I think I know what you'll say to this. Well, the first part of the question is tough, but how much time do I need to be decent? Is it worth it if I am 26 and working with very little experience in music besides playing guitar occasionally? That's from Christoph.
Why shouldn't it be worth it? I mean, if you want to do it, just do it. What's the rule? 10,000 hours of work to get an expert at a thing,
right?
And I mean, you will never get there if you think too much about it. Just get it started and work your way through, and you pretty quickly you will know if that's really something you burn for, or you want to go through, or something you don't want to spend time with. So just do it. You will never know if you don't try.
Yeah, I agree. Nazar asked, do you listen to any music for motivation before you start to compose?
Yeah, I do. But I I don't know how it is about you, but I really am very much afraid of copying stuff I listen to, because especially with orchestral music, I really internalize themes or counter melodies and stuff like that subconsciously, and I really have a big fear of just writing ET ETQ or a Bear McCreary or something, and just recreate something that's already there, and I really love it because it sounds so good, and then it's not my idea. So yeah, I do listen to those music to music to inspire myself.
So
but most of the time I already have a very specific idea in mind, and it's really hard to find music that matches the framework of my idea. So most of the time it's really easier to just start out and experiment.
There are two questions that are very similar, so I'll ask them both. HK Lesgo says, do you ever end up hating music? Does music being your job ruin it for you? And you've all asked, how do you maintain your love and passion for it once it becomes associated with stress? So kind of the same question.
Once it becomes associated with stress, well, that's interesting, because I mean, I don't want to say I love stress, but I need stress to write music, and I think I would be a very bad classical composer, because I would never finish a piece,
right?
Because I would be never satisfied. I mean, I had a commission for a 3-minute piece for a charity album, which we recorded in Abbey Road.
Nice.
And I had 2 months to write those 3 minutes, and I needed those 2 months, which was somehow ridiculous, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's funny.
So yeah, the stress is my motivation in a way. So that's not something that's making me not liking writing music, if that makes sense. It's more the motor of driving me to write music.
Yeah, some of these questions have the emotion is implied, that like, oh, you must feel this way. Oh, you work in music, you must be tired of it or something. I don't think that has to be true.
No, I don't. I mean, there are times when you really are exhausted and you are tired of writing music, but it's just for a short amount of time. Most of the time you take a little break and then the next thing comes up, and then you're on fire again, trying to find out what's this all about, and kind of curiosity. And but I think that's also something you really have to bring to the table when you want to work in this job.
Mhm. I mean,
Cur-
maybe back
curious.
to Christian's question about, you're saying he's 26, is it worth it? It's like, well,
Mm.
can you see yourself doing anything else? And if
Right.
not, then, of course it's worth it, I guess, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm,
And I mean, it doesn't mean you have to do it full time already. I mean,
right.
it's the best way for most people, and just set the time frame. I'll jump into it for 1 year, and then I will decide if I go on or whether I quit. Maybe that's if you can afford it.
Right.
That's the way to go.
Gosh, I'm sorry I can't get to all the questions, but when you're working on a film, at what stage do they usually bring you in and you get to start writing music?
Wow, that's completely different. I mean, for TV stuff, as you might know, you get on board as soon as the picture is locked, and you just start composing. I sometimes get hired when during the script stage, and which is really cool because you can read the script and live with the idea and just don't have to write music. Just get used to the idea and
Mhm.
used to the character. Talk to the director about his vision, and that really is the best part, because you can kind of come up with your own movie in your head even before things are shot, and you come up with ideas that won't happen once you see the movie, because reality versus your imagination is all, it will be a clash, especially in the TV world.
Mm.
And the most interesting stuff I came up with when writing when starting to script, or starting during the editing phase, writing music not to picture, but just in the universe of the ideas of the movie. And yeah, but most of the time it's just not possible for TV work, especially for feature films and other stuff. It's a completely different thing. For feature films, you have most of the time you have much more time to live
Mm.
with ideas and to throw ideas away to try out stuff, and there's more time to talk, and also more willingness to talk, because a feature film always that people put a lot more effort into feature films, and they are willing to talk about it in more depth than on TV projects, at
Mhm.
least in my experience.
So a common answer for people is relax. It depends. It depends on everything, on so many things.
Yeah, I hate to say that on so many questions, but
No, but it's
it
real.
really depends.
Yeah.
It's real.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, do you have advice? We kind of touched on this a little bit, and I know this
Mhm.
is such a hard question, but for people starting to get their careers going, so I guess you mentioned try to become an assistant. How would someone even go about doing that? I guess, like, if they don't know, they don't live in a
Yeah.
major
I mean,
city.
for me, it was a total coincidence. I would never
Yeah.
have thought about that possibility when I started out. So I was a very lucky guy at the time. But I mean, social media makes it much easier than anything. There are groups. There's a teammates group where sometimes jobs are posted on Facebook, and I think the secret in today's social media world is just be there and present yourself, talk about you, show your music, and just don't search for work, because it sounds ridiculous, but people don't like composers searching for work. Just be there, be a nice guy, get in contact with people, show them what you got, but just don't ask the question, do you have a job for me?
Right.
It's an absolute showstopper most of the time.
Right.
I mean, I've been there, and still there. I'm searching for jobs, of course, but really, my experience is don't ask for work, or don't really search for people you can work for. Just be a composer, be there, be present, show your work on social media, show your work ethic, and things will work out. People, for quite some projects, people won't care about your credits or your IMDb page or stuff like that.
Right.
They will hear something they're interested in, and they will check out whether you're a reliable person, and that's it. I mean, the higher you go in terms of projects, for example, you mentioned earlier the Apple project. A certain track record is needed to get your foot into the door.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see that you succeeded in doing movies, and you succeeded in doing them on time.
Right.
And that's very important. But for a lot of movies, that's not the most important thing.
That's really good. I think that's a really good place for us to end, right on the hour. So well done. Right, that's
Thank
great.
you.
So thanks everybody for coming and asking your questions. This will be just up on my YouTube page after this going forward, so it's not gone just because it was live. Christoph, thank you so much. This was an enjoyable conversation.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate we got to do this. Yeah, thanks.
And thanks, people, for all the great questions. I hope I was of help in a way for you.
Oh, I think so. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.